Alright people, before I get into this mess, let me make some things perfectly clear. I have never had any drama since I started this channel because I think drama is frankly kind of cringe and gay. However, when drama kicks down my door, forgive me if I wish to greet it with a shotgun. So a couple of days ago, Dev, from ShortFatOtaku, was on Adam and Sitch's show, discussing, Mencius Moldbug, and for some reason, my name was brought up. Watch this.
I read it some years ago. Right.
But maybe you should give us what you thought were the most compelling arguments, and we can go from there.
Okay, sure. When it comes to so I guess hold on. Does chat know what we're talking about? Chat.
Well, you want give us some.
Here's the TLDR. Okay, so basically, Mencius Moldbug decided at one point to write what he called an open letter to open-minded progressives. And I know that Aiden's co-host
open-minded progressives.
Yes. An open letter to open-minded progressives. Yes. If you are an open-minded progressive, this letter is for you. That's what he called it.
All two of you.
I know that Aiden's co-host Spoon described himself, like, let's say 15 years ago or whatever, as being, your average center leftist who, he generally agreed with a lot of the liberal presuppositions, but there was a few like dangling threads that he couldn't quite pack away. And he said that this is what made him finally understand what was going on. This letter. And now he's an absolute monarchist. So it's like,
liberal and progressive have kind of really split ways. Like I see liberal and progressive as tangibly different now. Like liberals are in favor of individual rights. Like what I talked about is impossible with liberalism, without liberalism. The idea that you can have an open society where, people have ideas that they can work on, independent projects they can work on. None of that is possible without freedom of speech, freedom of association, and individual rights to do whatever you want to do, right?
Okay, so I want to. Spoon is typing furiously in my DMs, telling me to correct this. He did not read this 15 years ago, but rather it was published 15 years ago. Okay. Sorry, Spoon. But basically, whenever Spoon was your average center lefty, he read the open letter to open-minded progressives, and it kind of converted him away from being
an open-minded progressive. Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, as
I already knew that the gold standard was complete crap. So that as soon as he started talking economics, I thought, oh, this guy doesn't know anything. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Having now read it, it's definitely a propaganda piece meant to convert progressives, or at least what we would call liberals, to being reactionaries. Like that's what it's for. Oh, okay. Actually, hold on. Can I find this real quick?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
What do you got to find?
Let me okay.
Okay, there is a whole bunch of things to unpack here. First off, I have nothing against Dev. Every interaction I've had with him, he's been very amicable actually. This, however, has soured me on him given that bar the book's publication date, everything he said here is a lie. I don't believe any of the yahoos on this panel knows what your average center leftist, whatever the hell it means these days, was even thinking 15 years ago. So ascribing that label to a hypothetical would-be converted reader in this fictional scenario is frankly dubious at best, and I'm being very, very generous. Why on earth then I am used as an example of a center leftist 15 years ago scream shady, seeing as I was not even politically active in any capacity 15 years ago, nor did I even know who Mencius Moldbug was, let alone read him. Dev does not know my political history. In fact, no one does. The people I spoke to when I first became interested in politics, I am no longer in any contact with. I wasn't massively invested in politics, at least not on a more serious level anyway. So when certain characters in the liberal ecosphere openly peddled sheer nonsense, for example, being a South African, my perspective on race is, let's say a bit different from theirs, shall we? It wasn't exactly difficult to decouple. Not to mention these people were hell-bent on ignoring reality and violating the English language, so I had every incentive to disengage. My initial push away from this was undoomed, and then V, and then Styx, Sargon, Razorfist, Louis, etc., etc. From there, it went on to more scholarly voices, Larry Elder, Walter Williams, Victor Davis Hanson, Thomas Sowell. By the time 2016 rolled around, I wanted Trump to win because at the very least I consider Hillary Clinton an evil psychopath. When he won, I laughed my ass off and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. In all seriousness though, be adults, let him govern, see how that goes. Then I saw protests, started reading the news, looking at the media. The difference was night and day. The one side focused on what Trump did well, they brought receipts, but the other side, they capitulated, regressed and turned into shit-flinging monkeys. Looking at that over and over again, one can clearly see something is horribly wrong. Didn't know where to start, but the poison in the well was tangible. Sargon then, at some point, mentioned Mencius Moldbug and the cathedral. That intrigued me, found the concept very different and completely foreign to the day-to-day, ergo, it was right up my alley. When I read an open letter, it made far more sense than anything you see in the mainstream media. The media shows you the end product. What an open letter attempts to do is conceptualize the underlying production process. This is what made me look deeper into the more anarchical and anti-democratic perspectives, oftentimes more older intellectual work. Michael Malice, Lysander Spooner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, H.L. Mencken, Erik Ritter van Cornel-Leden. I was already on the right when I read Moldbug. That was my gateway drug into monarchical thought. Contrary to Dev's utterly unsubstantiated claim, it was not this magical tome of propaganda that converted me from average center-leftist to absolute monarchist. The irony of Dev to call it a piece of propaganda is itself propaganda because that is how he is hoping to sell it to the audience. I imagine that's because he's a content creator and this is his gig. In this realm, this is his opposition. Doesn't speak well of your character though to start your pitch on a falsehood. Use me as a caricature in your framework, purport Moldbug's work to be propaganda, incorrectly ascribe political affiliation out of time and practice, and ultimately render a faulty conclusion that I was somehow propagandized into becoming a reactionary via this book, when you have no evidence for any of these outlandish claims whatsoever. That is all I have to say on that. Next up, I just want to point this out.
Now I know, Adam, you don't like Moldbug, right?
Yeah, I don't find any of it persuasive, to be honest with you. I mean, I read it, and in the beginning, I had the same kind of intuitions that Stardust had. That okay, this guy's making a good faith argument here. Mm-hmm. This, same here. You know, he's appealing to the things that are obviously problems that we have pointed out on the show. So, I mean, yeah, no, I totally get it. Yeah. But then when he starts pitching solutions, I'm like, oh, this guy's a madman. Like he really doesn't understand how power works. Like he doesn't understand how economies work. Like his idea of turning America into a corporation, ironically, he pitches it as some sort of meritocracy when it would destroy the meritocracy that we have. But he doesn't seem aware of that.
You don't have a meritocracy now. What an absurd thing to utter. Secondly, Moldbug doesn't know anything about the nature of power or economics. Really? I will damn near bet my life Curtis has read more books on the nature of power and economics than Adam can even name. You have to be seriously lacking in self-awareness to claim that guy knows nothing about economics or the nature of power while you simp for MMT and UBI. Get real. That's not to say Moldbug is always right, mind you, but for God's sakes, Adam, like you're showing up to a fight armed with a knife and the opponent is in a tank. He's read 2 books his entire life, Why Nations Fail and The Dictator's Handbook, and these 2 are the basis for his worldview. I'm being slightly hyperbolic, obviously, but the latter is the most reductionist one-dimensional view of power that no sane person would ever take seriously. Its basic premise is no king rules alone, and regardless of where the structure is applied, it's ruled in exactly the same way, whether this be a king, dictator, or military junta, and tries to explain every power dynamic through this one lens. Very much a case of IR hammer and everything I see is nails. Really think how insane that sounds when you say it out loud. To believe that is to completely ignore the existence and impact of time, philosophy, culture, and language. To believe that is to assert that there is no difference at all in the reigns of, say, Queen Elizabeth I, Nero, Pinochet, or Hitler. What utter maniac would ever think this? And the perspective on democracy, my dear God. The idea that democracy is better because it listens to this amorphous will of the people? That's how democracy is supposed to work on paper. That is not how it works in practice. Also assumes that what the people want is somehow noble or worthy through sheer mass. Couple that with term limits and a system where no one is ever held accountable. That's not a political structure, that's a frickin' ticking time bomb. Here's a question for you, Adam. You're from America, I'm from South Africa. Both countries are constitutional republics, both are your precious liberal democracies. Why does your country then work better than mine? Could it be because of demographics, IQ, resources, corruption, crime, investment, or any other number of factors maybe? To quote H.L. Mencken, democracy is a pathetic belief in the collective wisdom of individual ignorance. When you have phrases floating around like liberal hegemony, the permanent political class, or the lesser of two evils, while your politicians are renowned all across the Western world as power-hungry thieves who do nothing but lie, please forgive me if I don't quite swallow your cult-like delusions of a free world.